Hello tubes, this is Gav and welcome to another one of my videos. Forgive the messy cutting mat, that's what I was trying to say, or the messy bench even. Just a quick update, I know, quick update, but this one should be, on what I've done to the Hornisse stroke Nashorn. As you can see, let's get a pointy stick, Gav. I've added a fair bit of, it is scratch building, but not as we know it. Yeah, it's all simplified, I know, but it's just added, I think, a bit more to the interior and exterior of the Tank Hunter. As I say, this isn't a tank, it's a tank chassis, but it's not a tank, it's a Tank Hunter. So mobile, you know, you can have, well, this, as I say, this variant, it could be a mobile self-propelled gun in this as artillery, as the Hummel, or it could be a Tank Hunter with a, in this case, the 88mm as the Hornisse stroke Nashorn. As I said, the early ones were the Hornisse, and quite soon after they came on the scene, the name was changed to the Nashorn, so Rhino, so Hornet or Rhino, and I believe the Hummel is a bumblebee. I think that's right. So let's quickly go through it. Pointy stick, Gav. On the outside, we've got, as I said before, nothing's really changed there. We've got our open hatches. I drilled through and then opened them up with a burring tool. Now, the only thing I might add here, I've got to get a closer photograph, or even look on the instructions that my marra Jeff sent me, which I'll thank him for in a second. There's a drip line, either, I believe it must be on here, but when I looked at it, I don't remember if it's where I've seen it, it almost looked like it was actually on the reverse side of the hatch opening, and it's got like a rain gutter drip line, and yet I couldn't see one over the driver's side. So I'll take a look at that, and that might be a little feature just to add. So I've done a bit of filling. As I said, there was a slight gap, I pushed some plasticard in there and then put a bit of filler on. This is where everything falls off. I've added some tiny little shackles, they're probably too small. I extended the front of the, because they are there, not the D-shaped shackles, but the towing points are there, but they're so receded in that you couldn't really see them. So I've just added a bit of plasticard again, styrene sheet, and then just super glued just a U shape through them, just to say that the shackles are there. The wire on the outside, whether it was fencing wire or more than likely could have been comms wire from the numerous field telephones, but they tack welded. They either had these little bits that are welded on. That's normally for they've got a tarp that you could put over the top, but you could see a lot were actually tack welded on and attached that way, and that's a foliage. Now I decided to put it on now. I know it's going to be an absolute pig to paint the over the wires afterwards, but I just thought with the super glue and everything, which I've got to try and clear up a bit yet before I paint it, but I just thought, no, I'm on a hiding to nothing there. I'm going to be putting super glue and scraping all the paint off. So I decided to go with sticking the wires on first and putting up with the, you know, I might have to just overpaint bits where my paint goes onto the camouflage tank at the end. I decided to leave the exhaust, as you can see there underneath the main body, that is a little square piece above the track, and that is the exhaust that they've put on either side. If I'd have thought about it next time, some of them were straight like that, but a fair few were like bent out slightly, and it just looked a bit more, it would have looked a bit more slightly bent out. And if I'd have done this again, I'd probably cut that out and just stick a piece on. But when I tried it, I married up a piece to maybe extend that out a bit. It didn't look right, so I've left the exhausts as they are. I've still got to fill these gaps in here somehow. I'll either put plasticard in, but it might be a bit harder to. I'm thinking of I did look and I couldn't see. It would make sense. I would have thought that they may be welded down there, and if they are, I might do a weld seam down those with some putty or some styrene rod. I changed the foot plate over because, to be honest, it just kept breaking off. It's not particularly great. It's on quite hard, so I might try and round that off very slightly. Kept losing the blooming handles there, so I've got one giant one there and one tiny one. So I might knock that one off because this is all lead wire, this one. I might knock that copper wire off and stick a lead wire on, because when I looked at them, they were actually quite big. So that one's probably wrong, that one's probably right. Now, a big thank you to my marra Colorado Jeff, otherwise known as Jeff from Jeff Donahue from Jeff Donahue Scale Model Channel. Be a link to Jeff's channel in the description, hopefully, if I remember. This is a locking mechanism. I remember the few that actually watched the video all the way through would have heard me ask what this was. Well, Jeff obviously did, and I appreciate that no end, Jeff. There's like a locking wheel here. I didn't really know how to make wheels and that. And another shout out to, you'll probably never see this, but from Greg from Greg's Models. He recently done the old Matchbox Long Range Desert Group Chevrolet truck and Jeep set on his latest video, and he was just making a fresh steering wheel which he just wound wire around, and I hadn't realised how to do that with my usual not very clever personality. So I just had a piece of round tube styrene. So I would have done better with making it out of wire, but I didn't know at the time. But thank you very much, Jeff. Jeff took the time to actually send me dragging instructions, and on it says in locking position or travelling position. So, or you know what I mean. So that seems to be in the firing position there. So that's, you know, it's not brilliant, but it's made up the fighting compartment a bit more. What do we else we done? We've got the other MG mount I've made out of lead wire and a bit of plastic on the top. Forgive all the hands, I've been hand brushing primer on Epic Warlord Epic Napoleonics. So we've got this little guy here. I've made my own sighting. The commander would normally look through these binoculars. Look particularly anything like the real thing, but it's a first attempt. I'll get better, I'm sure. And that swings out and swings in, and I did think of swinging it out and just having them pointing in that direction over the side of the vehicle, but as the vehicle is in a firing pose as such, that the figures I've got with it are fairly relaxed, to be honest with you. So we'll say that they've fired maybe a round or two at different targets. This is set in Italy, and they might be firing across a valley at targets of opportunity. So yeah, I've left those in a firing position that the commander's using his binoculars, but when he wants to look at the target directly, he can go to his sighting binos, and the gunner uses his. So that's that. I think that's about it. I've added this. I'm not sure what this is. It didn't say, but I've seen it on the real vehicles, and I've seen it in wartime photographs and in the instructions from Dragon. So it's got like the cross section there for the strengthening where it's been pressed. So I don't know what that is, but I've reproduced it as best I can. This on the real vehicle and on the model, on the 1 in 35s and everything, bearing in mind this is a lot simplified, obviously, because it is a War Games piece at the end of the day, but it comes out more of a slope, a bit farther out, and I almost put some plastic card, and I thought, well, no, at the time I wasn't sure what was what, and I thought, no, that's just playing around for the sake of it, really. As I've said before, these are viewing blocks here. Why there's two there, I'm not sure, or why there's two blocks there. Now, what I would like to do as well, I will be filling some of these spaces out with some stowage that I'll make, because on the 1 in 35 scale models, they have like respirator stroke gas mask cases. I would like to try and make up some helmets, even if they're only simple. Maybe hang some helmets. There's a tarp to go on somewhere, but probably over this side, or something, bits like that. They'll go on in the next couple of days before I get ready for paint. And I decided to have the MG42. Normally the 40. See, this is where all the scales are a bit all simplified. The stowage position for the 42. Where are we? There we go. So you take this off the pintle mount that looks like that, and then you would stow the 42 along here, along with the spare ammunition cans. So I don't know if that would have actually fitted in there if you took that off, but yeah, that gets stowed along there in a travelling position. What I'm also going to do is I've got 3 figures: one seated gunner, one commander looking through the binos, as in his own binos rather than these ones here, and one bloke in a relaxed position. So I'll have those in the fighting compartment. There'll be 2 crew figures here. Obviously she's not firing, because I don't think you'd be sat there with a muzzle just in front of you as they let a round off. I think the concussion might do some damage. So as I say, it's in a semi-informal setting, if that makes sense. So that's what I've done on that. So there will be some more stowage going in here that I can make, and I'm not sure I could make an MP40 in 15mm scale or 1 in 100. The gun, what I had to do was this is already open. Was just to open it up at the barrel. This little recoil mechanism thing, added that. There's a lot you could do to it, but again, because of the thing's condensed and my scratch building skills ain't great, then stuff I do is probably overscale. There's not a lot of room, so I just made the bracings up for the frame, which is all this. This tends to be in real life, it's a tiny bit more, it's not so sharp, but I had to get everything. Normally this, I think, actually attaches to this, but I've just thought, no, that can go on there. I'm not trying to make it, because the smaller I made it, the tighter the apex was sharper, and it didn't look right. These are little containers. Come on, focus. These are little containers. I don't know what they contain, but that's what they are. I made myself a little wheel out of the lead wire again. I just put that round come on, focus. I just put that round a cocktail stick, I think, and then just let the bit stick out. Again, that's a bit too much. I might snip a bit off in time. And there was these little greeblies here. I've got no idea. Again, they're all in simplified form. And on the top, and that piece there, flat piece, that actually, I think that opens the breech and closes it of the gun itself. Obviously, it all needs a damn good clean out before we do any painting, because there's dust everywhere on it. But yeah, it's I think that's busied it up a fair bit. It's helped disguise some of the 2 blooming sinkholes at marks, whatever you want to call them, that I'd left unintentionally. So yeah, I won't put it actually in the Nash horn or Hornisse, only because I don't want to. It does fit in. I have dry, because I kept thinking, make sure you keep dry fitting it, because all these little bits are sticking on. So, I mean, you could if you want to. It's only it's not going to ever. It does turn, obviously, with obviously this pin, but you could just cut that off completely and just stick her in position. But roughly you're looking like that. Again, it's all the only thing that drawback for myself is it's all quite thick. Again, it's a gaming piece, not a modelling piece. It is all quite thick, and it could do with thinning out. But I thought to myself, if I thin this shield out, I've got to thin everything else out. And as I said to you guys before, because of stuff that was already on here, I was a bit reticent to do that, because it would be a real faff around. But I think I should have probably taken out. I think if I was doing this again, and I might well do another. I mean, as I say, these, I can't say it enough. If you're going to buy a box with them because you want to game them, then I don't know if that's expensive or not. It's how people judge that. But for a little modelling project that you can either use as a gaming piece, I mean, yeah, I've got to admit, using this as a gaming piece, you've got a good chance of breaking all the little bits off that I've put on. But just for a modelling project, just for something that you can see how big it is in my fingers, it's not huge. And I just keep it on my table and I do bits to it as I'm painting my figures or doing my, my other bits of modelling. And you've still got quite a nice little vehicle. Yeah, as I say, things probably aren't as scaled as, like this. This is the, as I say, for the travelling, for the barrel, to lock the barrel in place. Everything's simplified, I know. Oh, and I rounded these, or just cut into the base of these to make these lights more round rather than just pegs. I didn't want to make them any thinner than that because I thought I was bound to snap them off. But you could just cut them off as the ball and then add drill a hole and add a little stick, which I did think of doing as well. So next stage now is more or less just another thing. Let's pick it up with my tweezers if I can. I've just started making a couple of, where are we? Got the Dremel out and I've made an empty there because I'm going to sit it on a little base and I'll have a couple of thrown out, where are we, can we see? So a couple of spent casings that have been thrown out the back, just a couple, but yeah, I just drilled down the front just to make a bit of a, it's just about, I've been going off roughly on the ammo containers themselves, so they're actually a bit big. I could just cut the end off this and then redo the end. Because what I'm going to do is I've got a blank here. Oh, well, there you go. He's a bit big at the moment, but I thought of putting a couple of rounds leaning up, maybe ready to take out and obviously put in the barrel. So yeah, that's it. So next time I show you, hopefully I'll have some paint on her. I don't think there's any much point now in showing you anything else until she's actually got some paint on. I've got some decals. I wasn't going to buy decals, I was going to paint them on because I mean these cost me £6 from an eBay seller, but they came in one of these cards that you put gaming cards in. I thought that was very good. There's two in here, it cost me £6, and it might not sound a lot, but for what I might use them for, £6's a fair bit. That's no criticism in the seller, I just mean as in what I wanted to spend really to keep I always try and keep these things as little projects, as side projects, as cheap as possible. But I'm going to put one decal either side with a Balkan cross, and then the numbers could either be on the side or on the bit of frontal plate I've seen there as well. I will be putting foliage on on some of these wires as well, so that's all to come. So you'll definitely see it in the next video. It'll be painted, and then we'll go whether it's got decals on or not, I'm not sure yet, but yeah, in the end I thought they're never going to look right. I know sometimes they were just painted on by hand rather than sprayed by a stencil, but I just thought, yeah, it's gonna, if I do a decent job of this, it'll look a bit rough with just my hand painted Balkan crosses on and stuff. So there we go. That's about all I've got to say on it. So thank you very much. Hope everything's going well with you. As I say, I would thoroughly recommend something like this. It's, as I say, they're not they're not time consuming. They're as time consuming as you want to make them. They're small enough that if you don't own an airbrush or you just don't want an airbrush, you could paint them by hand. I mean, I will be airbrushing mine and then hand painting the interiors, the bits and pieces. I did think of leaving bits off and painting them separately and sticking them on, and I will do that with a stowage. But like with the 42 and bits and pieces, I just thought I will leave the gun off to paint separately so I can get into the fighting compartment. The next step is I'm going to have a go. I mean, how hard can it be being a sculptor? I mean, really. So I'm going to try and sculpt a couple of figures that go in with these guys. I mean, really, I mean, I can paintbrush. Why can't I? Why can't I sculpt little figures? If it doesn't go right, it doesn't go right. But you know, nothing ventured, nothing gained. So I'm going to try and sculpt a couple of figures to go in the front there, and I was maybe thinking of doing a couple of standing figures as well, to go outside the compartment, just to add a bit of context, more context to the build. So thank you very much for stopping by and taking a look. Coming up, I've said this before. I've got the Warlord Epic or Proxy Epic that I've been doing for the client. They're going to get varnished tomorrow because I'm putting some varnish on the 1:24 scale 429 Roadster. That's getting varnished tomorrow as well. So there'll be different types of varnish. Hopefully I don't get it mixed up, but they'll be going on the figures and on that. So there'll be some of them videos coming up in the week, and a couple of other things as well, which are at the moment. Oh, I've sent off for some figures and bits and pieces. So I've got some, hopefully some 6mm World War II Germans coming, and some 6mm Jagd Panthers. They're coming. And I got some Perry miniatures, 40mm Peninsular War figures coming as well. I bought 4 of them, 2 French and 2 British. So we'll have a look at those when they arrive at some point. So thank you very much. Again, have a think about something like this. If you're a scale modeler, and you just want to do something simple, or you fancy having a go at scale modelling, but you don't want a huge outlay, and you haven't got a lot of tools. You don't have to obviously super detail them or anything, if this is super detailing, but you don't have to detail them out or anything if you don't want to. But something like this, you buy a sprue off eBay, because people always break the sprues down to sell them, make a couple of quid on each one. As a one-off, I believe this cost me around £5. Might have been £6 or it might have been £4. I've been literally, the 2 I've paid for and others I've seen, they're literally anywhere from the smallest, like 2-man scout cars at say about £3.50, and this is including the postage, up to something obviously a lot larger like this. They do Tiger tanks, Mark 4s, Mark 3s, Shermans, Lee and Grants. There's a whole range of stuff in the plastic, and this plastic's a damn sight better than their resin ones and stuff they did in the early days. So you might just want to pick something up and give it a go. Anyway, breathe, Gav. I'll see you soon on another one, and I'll get back to whittling shells, and I'll probably get one out of about 20. It's quite expensive way to whittle away on plastic, on those things you get on the evergreen styrene. But I did try doing stuff before with old sprue, and it seems to melt a lot easier as you're doing it, so, and a lot more brittle. Yeah. Anyway, I'm rambling. So yeah, back to whittling shells. It's a pastime. Look after yourselves, and we'll see each other soon on another video.